and one really couldn't ask for a better evening for a game of football. And as we wait for the teams to come out, it's worth just reflecting for a moment on just how much English clubs are dominating that trophy that you now see in front of you. When you remember that we used to look back on this tournament at first with disdain and then with envy, and then of course there was 3 times. Nottingham Forest players on the right as we look. Ken Johnson going through for the Swedes. That's Ljungberg, who's got a fine left foot. John O'Hare, one who's followed Brian Clough along the way. Chris Woods at the back, the reserve team goalkeeper, still waiting for his first chance. And the officials leading them onto the pitch. The referee is Eric Linnemar of Austria. We remember refereed the game between Scott Servine, one of the forwards, September, and he thought his career had come to an end in 1974 when his team, then Newcastle United, were beaten by Liverpool in the FA Cup. They're the supporters of Malmo, currently in 4th place in their league because they're Union Jacks. They've even had signs printed which says there is only one Gary Birtles. I and several other people on the plane were given them. There's a sight that we remember from the Olympic Games and indeed the World Cup as we look at the team from Sweden. One of the youngest, average age of only 25, 2 teenagers, Fritz and Shinval, 2 21-year-olds, Magnus Andersson and Ingmar Erlendsson. And as I mentioned at the start, Roy Andersson and Bo Larsen missing from the centre of their defence. Magnus Andersson, who's wearing 5, is normally a midfield player, and it's going to be a real test for him. I don't think you'll find that they're marked man for man at the back. Just 4 substitutes shows just how difficult it is for them to put out a side. They've had so many problems with injuries. You'll notice there another Andersson. I suppose it could be said it's been a fairy tale for them to have reached this stage. That's the Nottingham Forest lineup, and in a way Brian Clough's choice was, I won't say aided, that would be the wrong word, but he had problems with injuries in midfield, which in the end have resulted in Gemmell and O'Neill both missing the game. Bowyer, the only player with experience of a European final. He played for Manchester City in the Cup Winners' Cup final of 70. And also, curiously, the only player to survive from Brian Clough's first team. There's Trevor Francis wearing them and break ball. Robertson was out on the far side. Here's Burton. Shinval immediately to him, number 11. Nottingham Forest, Anderson, Viv. Back by Woodcock, away by Jonsson. Flag up for offside. Malmo goalkeeper, Jan Muller. Kicked him slightly further forward, although they're giving him, understandably, an early touch. Might be a very busy man tonight. Just 2 up for Malmo. Good stick again by Birtles. Ability in the air is often underestimated. Another free kick for Swedes, this time for a foul. Tommy Hansen, number 9. Staffan Tapper is going to take it. We've got 4 up into the area, met very positively by Larry Lloyd. Magnus Andersson, Forest defence moving up, and the offside decision given. And Robertson starting pretty deep. Magnus Andersson. Ljungberg, who just got the foot in. This is Robert Fritz, another one of the teenagers. Burns covering. Shinval, who made the run in. The onus certainly will be on Forest to carry the game. Strength of the Swedish side is in the organisation of their defence, although it's a real test for them tonight, particularly as they have the man Roy Andersson, who normally organises their offside trap, is one of those missing. Burns with Andersson just ahead of him. Francis on the right side. more positive ball for Bertels. Kent Johnson who came across. Savin. Ljungberg, known as Puskas, but he's very left-footed. Trying to disprove me by using his right there, but I assure you his left foot is much the stronger. Anderson. Bertels. Woodcock forward, Bowyer in midfield. Magnus Anderson, where he enjoys it the better. But a free kick given against him for that challenge. Bobby Houghton, coach of Malmo, Londoner born in Croydon, who's done so well with the team. 3 championships and 3 cups, and twice runners-up since he joined the club on New Year's Day 1974. Ronan Anderson's tackle. Likely to feel the more at home measure of support. Be interested to see which side the German supporters take. Flag up for offside, and I think a moment to bring in Bobby Charlton for the first time.
Well, it's very interesting. As soon as Nottingham Forest get possession, everybody falls back and they go into defensive positions. They've only got number 10 Servin and number 8 Fritz up front as soon as there's any sort of danger. But it's only going to be a break if Malmo are going to score. But Forest at the moment are just playing it carefully.
Shinval. Francis in a defensive role. Savin. Francis. John McGovern. Forest ball. Burns withstanding the challenge quite comfortably. Robertson again very deep. Noticeable that Fritz went straight to him and is looking for them again. Looking for him again, rather. Stefan Tapper. All over the top of the ball, not deliberately, but completely missed it. Robertson. Lloyd to Burns. Patience has become a bit of a cliche in football, but I think it's going to apply tonight. That's well swept wide by Bowyer to Francis. Bertels in the middle, McGovern just outside the box, Woodcock arriving far side, and Shinval wresting it away from Anderson. Ljungberg. Shilton with more time than looked likely at the beginning. Malmo side average age 25. Forest 2 years older. Here's Kent Johnson. In fact, is 24. Savin. Fritz making a forward position on the right. The ball with Tapper. Tapper played for Sweden in 2 World Cups, but very much overhit that. McGovern. Robertson faced by Fritz. The try may sound as though it comes from Forest supporters, but I think it comes from Malmo. They follow English football and often copy some of their cries. The flag was up for offside against Bertels. Two up, Hansen going with Lloyd, Servin behind him. Burns. Robert Fritz. Well, that's nice briefly until it was beautifully cut out by Anderson. Robertson looking for Bertels, and Bertels showing the face for the first time, and onto the roof of the net. He applauds the pass. Typical piece of play by Robertson. He was hanging back and played it through to Bertels, who used his pace well. The goalkeeper came to meet him, and this is his strength, Muller, but he couldn't just curl it round, Bertels. Jerry Bertels, 27 goals this season. The way the Swedish team play, the goalkeeper Jan Muller is used to having to act as a sweeper in the manner of Ray Clements. And Bowyer hesitated, but still has the chance. Two good breaks by Forrest. It was Erlandson who came across to Bowyer. And Robertson has gone to take the corner. Forrest pushing all bar two and Peter Shilton into attacking positions. Taken by Muller, but only after a bit of a struggle. Helped by Ljungberg. Bit of explanation going on. Most of the Swedes can speak English well enough to embarrass an Englishman who can speak no Swedish. Woodcock. Forrest slowly but surely upping the pace a little bit. Fritz forcing Robertson back. And again, Bertels caught offside. Brian Clough looking very pensive. Thinks twice about the shot. They're calling him Bob Houghton, but if you don't know that face, you must have been somewhere on a desert island. Anderson. Francis. Erlandson. Johnson. Burns. Oh, he's given it away to Schindler. And rescued by Shilton. Kenny Burns definitely in two minds then. He might have let it run to Shilton in the first place. And instead he decided to head it just to take the pace off it and give it to Shilton comfortably. And it came much too much off the top of his head. And Schindler was a little bit too eager. 10 minutes gone. And the first scare for Forrest. Erlandson. Erlandson, one of the 21-year-olds. And the whistle has gone for a little bit of pushing. Malmo tending to get most of their goals from set pieces. The last 20 league goals, I'm assured, 16 of them came from set pieces and the other 4 from rebounds. Muller called forward this time. He's 25 years old, 6'4", big fella. Lloyd. Just a little breeze for the players, which they could well welcome. Anderson for Forrest, who have 2 up and Robertson well wide on the left. Two sides, certainly Malmo's 4-4-2 permutation is more exaggerated. That's the sort of gap that Francis will be looking for. And he was fouled by Erlandson. I'm not sure whether Brian Clough feels that this is his best position. I think he'd rather him be well forward, but I think Francis likes his position better coming from deeper. Bit of curl on that. And not well clear. Comes to John McGovern if he can get through the gap. Couldn't put it back, and Woodcock perhaps wonders why. So we've had 13 minutes and no score as yet in this 24th final of the European Cup. Both sides in the final for the first time. And the winner will be the 11th different holder of the trophy. And the free kick given for the challenge by Bowyer, which flattened Magnus Andersson. By no means the tallest central defender. No question it was a foul. Andersson was doing what schoolboys are taught to do, looking at the ball, and suddenly Bowyer came from heaven. And the Swedes certainly couldn't afford to have any major problems with Andersson. Just 21 last month. I think the blanket there is simply a precaution. Went to the World Cup with the Swedish side in Argentina, but didn't play. The further problem for Malmo is that they've only got 4 players on the bench, as we saw at the start. And of those 4, one is a goalkeeper, one is a midfield player, and the other 2 are forwards. Normal rules, of course, for European football. You can put 5 players on the bench if you have 5 available, which the Swedes don't, and you can use 2 of them. But I think it was only as much shock as the clump, although he seems to have got a bit of plaster on his chin. I wonder whether that might turn a few of the neutrals on the side of the Swedes. Hansen came off Clark. Capper had come square. This is Servine. Goal kick. Sorry, Servine has been Malmo's top scorer and has yet to worry Larry Lloyd and his defence. Scored over 50 goals in the last 5 seasons. We want to be in that number when the Reds go marching in is undoubtedly coming from the Forest supporters, most of whom are away to our right. Bertels and Andersson. And a little bit of use of elbows by either Woodcock or Bertels. Free kick to Malmo. Burns. Not looking his usual self at the back. Seemingly a little bit crippled by nerves at this stage. He gets the free kick. Clark. Robertson comes a bit short to him. Immediately faced by Fritz. He's encouraged by Bob Houghton to keep him out on the touchline. Francis. Woodcock and Bertels. Well, the first expensive run of the night. Well, Arvidsson is the substitute. I don't quite know why his name was put there. From that fine run, a corner of Nottingham Forest to be taken by Woodcock. Bertels and Lloyd both on the near post. Bowyer at the back, good catch by Muller.
Was a good example there of individual skill just reaping its rewards, or nearly reaping its reward anyway.
Servine. slowly but usefully, but the pass to Fritz wasn't a good one. Tall figure of Tapper has come forward. Two taking one then. Bowyer forced to turn by the two attackers who went to mark the goalkeeper. Bertels again getting up well. Nottingham ball. Robertson certainly well withdrawn. Tends to be when Francis is in the side. Almost getting Woodcock through. Cut out by Roland Anderson. Nicely inside Fritz. Bowyer spreading it out again with that fine left. Anderson's made the forward run, found by Francis. This is promising. Robertson at the back. Good attack that by Forrest. Started in fact by the man who almost finished it. It was Francis who played the ball through to Anderson, whose cross was missed by the two forward players, and Robertson came in at the back, unable quite to pull it back enough, but it was put out in fact by Anderson, as we saw. Corner quickly taken, and Muller having to do well in front of two attackers. And he gets the free kick. "20 minutes gone, no score, but two or three attacks from Forest that will give them hope." Francis started his European debut very well indeed. Schienval coming to mark him. Looking for the early one for Bertels then. Clark. Hansen again going to the goalkeeper. And Clark, a little fortunately, took his eye off it. Frankly, at this stage, the Forest attack looking rather better than the Forest defence. That's comfortable for Shilton. Two target men forward, Woodcock and Bertels. And they're looking for Bertels, again showing good pace, but covered by Jonsson, who loses to him, and the flag is up, and the free kick is Forest's way. Anderson has come up. Francis. Whole line of red shirts, and they've got men over here. Lloyd didn't realise he had two players behind him, I'm sure. Savine is in the middle. So is Burns. Schienval. Dropped short, seen by McGovern, and that's the left foot of Ljungberg that I was telling you about at the start. Really thumped it. Man who is as old as the club's coach, Bob Houghton. And when it comes out to him, look how he thumps this. But it was rising and it came slightly off the outside of his boot. Magnus Andersson, Robert Fritz. Both Fritz and Kinval just tucking in front of the back four, depending on which flank the attack is coming from. It's better done by Bird. Clark. Robertson. I thought he was obstructed. Linnemeyer didn't. Anderson getting it at the second attempt. That's for Bertels. Francis. brought down by Ljungberg. Just at the moment when if he could have pushed it forward and switched it. He's certainly the player so far to cause the greatest problems to Malmo. Clark. Again looking for Bertels. Anderson across to him. And the free kick has been given, but in Malmo's favour. Bob Houghton obviously agrees. He doesn't too often agree with referees. He's sitting on the bench tonight, but it could well be his last match for a while there, because the result of some trouble he's had recently will be known tomorrow. Could be he'll suffer the same fate as Malcolm Addison in days gone by. He'll be banished to the stands. Burns. Lloyd. Robertson on the left touchline, again dropping short for it, again faced by Pritz. Played it early into the gap behind the fullback, which is Forest at their best. Bertels. Good challenge by Erlandson who'd come across. Forest facing the sort of problems that Monaco had, the French champions, Dynamo Kiev, the champions of the USSR, Wisla Krakow of Poland. And here's a break for Shinval. And Anderson equal to it. But a free kick has been given outside the area for obstruction by the fullback. So there the pressure's been at the other end. There have been one or two breaks. Sort of worried a little. Let's have a look at it again, because the Swedes obviously feel that the incident took place in the area. Well, there was the first push by Anderson. There perhaps the second. But what he did in the box seemed to me to be perfectly fair. Free kick coming on the 25th minute. And coming off the wall. Fritz's shot and an offside decision given against Servi. Bobby Charlton.
It's very interesting, but when Torre's serving, number 10 goes on these long runs, it's about the only thing that they've got in their armoury up front. When I was saying before about some individual skill that was shown by Trevor Francis, they're really frightened of him now. He's playing rather orthodox on the right-hand side of the field, but he's creating all sorts of problems just by going at them.
He looked very pensive, but I think he knew that he would have to be patient. Although he did say this morning that it would be even worse sitting on the bench than out there playing. Here's Erlandson. That break has encouraged the Swedes a bit, certainly encouraged. And I wonder whether, back in the studio, and indeed with Bobby Charlton, whether our expert tonight would like to see Robertson push forward a bit further. A free kick given against him now for a foul on Fritz. Ronan Anderson to take the kick. Lloyd looking for it, finds it. Francis. It's a bit too long for Bertels. Oh, Jonsson took an awful long time before playing the back pass. 6-1 outsiders, the Swedes, 9-2 on Nottingham Forest. First time the Swedes have had a team in any European final. Offside against Woodcock. Sweden, though, have had some famous players who've appeared in the final. Niels Lidholm for AC Milan. He got a loser's medal against Real Madrid. Then there was Kurt Hamreen and Ove Kinval, who scored the winner against Celtic in 1970, and who incidentally is commentating in the box just to our right. Ljungberg with the free kick. And Malmo in their best part of the match to date. So you're looking a bit anxious. Chapa, blocked by Bowyer. Erlandson, not one he'll want to remember, and an offside flag is up. Francis, Woodcock, a good flick by Woodcock, looking for Birtles coming in behind. Woodcock again, full of industry. That's McGovern's shot! The most cleanly hit shot of the night. Woodcock who did the spade work. McGovern with a good left foot, but away past the far post. Interesting the number of Forest players then available for the pullback. Francis. After perhaps a slightly slow start, battle being joined a bit. Anderson. Rather hit that at Woodcock. Anderson has been caught out. Woodcock given offside. It must have been very close. Bobby Charlton to my left, feeling that the linesman was a bit too sharp then. We've had half an hour of the match, and Forest have had more of the ball, but haven't done as much with it as their management would like to see. So no score. Fritz. Met by Burns, but not well. Not comfortable at the back, and his Francis having to help out. Maybe the Forest attitude of the match is being affected by the uncertainty at the back. Confirmation of the scoreline. Woodcock leaning on a bit. Gets between two, but in the end fouled by Erlandson. It's Woodcock. Much more in the game in the last 5 minutes. McGovern. But he just took enough of the sting off to grab it again. Anderson, away by Burns. Roland Anderson again. Lloyd. Francis. They look for put up or dangerous play, but the referee not prepared to give it. Wants somebody to come shorter to him instead of both going away. Oh, that's a great ball if he can get there, Robertson. Woodcock inside. Birtles there as well. Oh dear, oh dear. Here's Lloyd. Offside against Robertson. He was caught really because of his own disappointment at his poor pass a few seconds earlier. McGovern. Robertson. Burns. Francis. Looking for Birtles, but it was a bad pass. Clark. Bowyer. Robertson. Woodcock. Anderson across to meet him. Bertels in the middle. Erlandson covering the back of the defence. Bowyer. Robertson. They look for the offside, but the linesman keeps the flag down. I think we've seen enough in this first 35 minutes to convince anybody that Malmo have been well schooled in defensive tactics by their English coach. Shinval, and 2 substitutions being made. 15 is Malberg coming on, and 6 is coming off Staffan Tapper, obviously because of the injury, he's limping a bit. Just the 1 substitution. The 2 numbers put up there was for a player coming on and a player coming off. And it's Staffan Tapper, who was injured in training yesterday. They tried to play it down, who's been replaced by Klaus Malmberg. Bertels, Robertson. Free kick has been given Malmo's way. Malmberg, who's a utility player, but more commonly to be found in midfield. In case you're still confused, just the 1 substitution. The fact that 2 numbers were put up there, usually they keep 1 up and 1 down. 10 minutes the first half remaining, and still this European Cup final without a goal. A rather poor clearance, an attempt by Roland Anderson to catch Shilton off his line.
Some of the efforts from the Malmo forwards, for example that shot at goal there, was very naive, and I think the pitch being very, very holding is creating a few problems for the back people, particularly Kenny Burns, who is not the quickest at turning. But eventually I would imagine that Notts Forest will find themselves in front. I think also the mere fact that the ground is very holding, the midfield players aren't able to get up and support some of the better moves that have been made by Trevor Francis and also by Bertels, Gary Bertels. I think because it's been very holding, I think physically they're finding it a little bit difficult to get themselves up there and support the type of support that they're going to need if they're going to break down this defence.
Bertels, 1 or 2. Woodcock. Ronan Anderson. Woodcock. Oh, he let it go. Now has he got the pace? Magnus Anderson read it well and got across. He's done a good job for Malmo, Magnus Anderson, in an unaccustomed position. Not only have they lost Bo Larsen and Roy Anderson, they've also lost Christensen, who's left the club and joined a 3rd division side as manager. He's been almost a permanent fixture in the Malmo team. Francis. Challenged by Erlandson. Burns checking. Lloyd. Predictable reaction from Malmo supporters. It's Francis. Bertels trying to get away from Jonsson. It's another good run and a great ball by Francis. Definitely holding the best cards for Nottingham Forest. Bowyer have made the run and is now caught out in midfield. This is Malberg. Tackle from behind and the free kick has been given. 6.5 minutes of the first half remaining. Anderson with the free kick, for which Malmo have 3 players up on the 18-yard line. Hansen, who really has hardly had a touch. Look where Robertson is in the left-back position. Anderson in trouble, and Bertels quick to see the opportunity. Woodcock up, Robertson. Ljungberg, who conceded the corner. For which Larry Lloyd is already on his way forward. And Muller, again showing confidence and good catching. Anderson, Burns, who'd come up for the corner. Free kick against Ljungberg. Forest looking for what would totally change the atmosphere of the game. Haven't really been at their best at all, but a goal would make such a difference to them and the whole tactics of the game, I think. Although just one wouldn't perhaps be enough to make the Swedes immediately come out and reply. I don't think they'd change their tactics completely just with one goal conceded. Bertels, Woodcock, he's in clean, and he carried it to the keeper. I don't think he deviated from a straight line. Well, we can see it from behind the goal whether he did or not, but I don't think in any way he tried to dummy the goalkeeper. In fact, he hadn't fully got it under control, I don't think. And here's Servine. And no one to get on the end of it. And Shilton turning to Kenny Burns. And I must say, some of the expressions of the back players in the Forest team, reminiscent of the first leg of the semi-final against FC Cologne, the West German champions. And of course they were 2 goals down and eventually had to settle for a 3-3 draw, which led to them becoming the first English side to win away after being held at home. Conversation in the dressing room might be about the might-have-beens, but I don't think that they will need Brian Clough to tell them that they haven't done themselves justice in this first half, the champions of England. So supporters of Liverpool are objecting to that last remark. It's also true to say that the Swedes are no longer champions of their country. They've lost the title too. In terms of this match, it's the champions of the 2 countries. Here's Robertson. Bowyer. He took a long time and allowed the defence to get back. And in fact, allowed them to move up and catch Robertson offside. Forest goals in the European Cup this season have been scored by 10 different players. And I don't think they would mind one bit who gets on the score sheet tonight, as long as this deadlock is broken and their frustrations released. Lloyd. I must say, perhaps should be exempt from comments about the defence. I haven't noticed Larry Lloyd make any errors. But as a unit, they haven't looked comfortable. And we're now into the last 2 minutes of the first half. Nobody there for the inside pass, cleared by Burns to Bertels. Woodcock already making the move. creating the gap for Bertels to go into. Roland Anderson got the touch. Barrier, Robertson, always faced by Pritz. Francis, Anderson, Bertels in the middle. Anderson going it alone with those elastic legs of his, away by Magnus Anderson. It's not a good header down, and here's Viv Anderson again. Driven across. He looks disappointed, and so did Woodcock. With a ball of less force, might perhaps have picked out Woodcock. Just 1 minute of the half remaining. Had a few shots around Muller's goal, but they haven't actually forced him to make any save of note. He's looked very comfortable coming for the cross ball. Woodcock bustling a bit too much. Free kick for his challenge on Kent Jorgensen. Lloyd's header, McGovern. Bertels again chasing, Roland Anderson there first. Anderson. Woodcock. Particularly disappointing score at half-time, bearing in mind that Malmo had lost two important players before the start of the match.
If you allow him to get there. But it was very obvious that Trevor Francis was going to play a great part in this match. And now that the whistle has gone for half-time, we can have a look at it. And probably there'll be a very relieved bunch of Nottingham Forest players that come up. And there he is, the scorer, Trevor Francis. Probably the best player on the field in this particular first 45 minutes. And I think that now that they've got this goal, they can relax a little bit, and I'll be very surprised if there's not a few more come their way in the second half.
Trevor Francis, the 11th player this season to score for Nottingham Forest in the European Cup, and giving them a half-time lead in this 24th European Cup final of 1-0-0. Forest team making their way out onto the field. One or two of the threes looking a little disconsolate, I thought, as they came out of the dressing room. And for the record, 4 times 1 goal has been enough to win the European Cup. But I think it will be a huge disappointment for followers of the English game if that 1 goal by Trevor Francis at the death of the first half doesn't provide a launching pad for a rather better performance from Nottingham Forest in the second. Malmo supporters, undaunted it would seem. And I suppose they will remember that they were 3-1 down on aggregate to Wisla Krakow with only half an hour to go, and survived. It was in the quarter-final, and then beat Austria Wien by the only goal in the second leg at home to Tommy Hansen. We're just looking at there with the moustache. So away we go on the second half. And where will Robertson go now? Won by Berrier. Magnus Anderson. McGovern. Francis. Anderson. Erlinson. Clark across. Bertels beautifully took the weight off that to give it to Francis. So it's Robertson on the near side as we look, calling for the long cross. Bertels went too soon and is offside. You can see Robertson at the bottom of the picture. An early goal by Forest at the start of this half would surely take the game by the scruff of its neck. Anderson. Roland Anderson. Shinval with the throw, probably had the best opportunity for the Swedes in the first half, but had no confidence at all in taking it. Frank Clark, 36 in September, but not quite as old as Di Stefano. We've got one of the oldest and one of the youngest players on the field in the European final, the other being Shinval, but he not quite as young as Brian Kidd, will be remembered, scored on his 19th birthday in that European Cup final of 1968. Shinval was 19 on the 8th of this month. Erlinson. Anderson. Whistle has already gone. Free kick to Malmo. Erlinsson's got to take. They've put 3 players, now 4 in the area. One of them is Ken Jonsson. It's the first time he's been in the opposition box. Shinval makes it a 5th. Nothing like the length needed on the free kick. Anderson, and plenty of players going forward for the Swedes. Roland Anderson, Burns underneath it. Trevor Francis having really a fine game. A real roar from the crowd then at that run. Shown the sort of pace that Malmo have been unable to cope with. Always looked the likeliest man to achieve the breakthrough, although it was with the help of Robertson that he did so. First time Robertson attacked and went on the outside. Here's Clark. Tommy Hansen. Well cut out by Burns. More shots from Bob Houghton. Whatever happens to his team tonight, has done a remarkable job with the Swedish club. Hansen is in the middle. And no foul, says the referee. John Robertson, offside against Bertels. It's been caught more often than most. First time we've had a look at Peter Taylor, Brian Clough's number 2. And I would think, in spite of the goal, that there were a few harsh things said in the dressing room at half-time. Burns again living dangerously. Frank Clark forced to go wider than he wanted to because he failed to control it. Here's Lloyd. Swept out to Francis. So they're moving up and he's got to hold it, it's got to come wide. And Bowyer, who was caught off. Viv Anderson. In the presence of Torre Servine, and has to force him to give away possession. Ljungberg to Erlin. Vandenberg was up forward. Has to go back, but he hadn't got help inside. Swedes promptly moving forward. Malmo playing their 25th match in the European Cup, their 45th European competition, European match of all the competitions. Nottingham Forest, only their 9th game in the European Cup, previously once in the French Cup. Viv Anderson. Burns. Bowyer. Dear, oh dear. Disappointing start for Forest in the second half. Playing incidentally tonight their 63rd match of the season, which is one more than Liverpool had to play to win the last 2 European Cups. In this case, Liverpool's final was their 62nd match of the season. Erlinson. The free kick to Malmo. And no obvious change, Bobby Charlton.
No, apart from possibly one or two of the midfield players from Malmo trying to get a little bit forward. Apart from that, I think that Nottingham Forest now will try to cruise as best they can, but I think they would also like to win well. Obviously, they represent our country, and if they're going to do that, they want to do it as best they can. I still think there's a lot more goals to come in this particular match, but they'll probably still be a bit careful for the next few minutes or so, until they start getting the breathing easier again.
Forest, the 11th side from the Football League to represent England in the European Cup. Francis. Grounds of disappointment from the Forest supporters, followed by equal groans from the Malmo supporters. Robertson. That's nice for Bertels. Woodcock going to the far post, in the other player up, and they get a corner from it. Gary Bertels scored 6 goals in 8 European Cup matches, starting with the opener against Liverpool. Bowyer. Robertson trying for the dead ball line, and goal kick to Lindemann, unimpressed by the dive. Fritz moves forward, having done his job. Anderson teaches physical education at a school in Malmo. And Muller spends a bit of time as a bank clerk. Their job is mainly to assist them giving more time to football. Won by Bowyer after quite a struggle. Fritz. Shinval had gone forward. Has to do rather better than that with his shot. Calls many furrows on the brow of Peter Shilton. Offside again. goalkeeper who played that back. Free kick has been given to Malmo for the push right on the touchline. Malmo, the holders of a record number of league titles, 12, and a record number of cup victories, 10. Both sets of supporters trying to lift their teams. Shilton for it, taking very calmly and confidently, as one would expect. 105 games before tonight, produced 50 clean sheets. Forest record. We've had 12 minutes of the second half, and still the score 1-0 for Nottingham Forest. Here's Francis. Woodcock. Shout came from Robertson. Woodcock. That's nice. Breslau's the pulled away, far post. They've got 2 men over further back. The cross not high enough. Here's Fritz. Looking long for Hansen. And the ball went over, according to the linesman. Malmo's first corner. Five players outside the 6-yard box. Met by Lloyd, down to Pritz. Unfortunately, Lloyd's left foot didn't make contact. Wouldn't have mattered anyway because the flag was up for offside. On to Bertels from Woodcock. Bertels still with a chance. The Forest players put their heads in their hands. Bertels looks down. Oh, the sort of chance that looks so easy from the stand. Woodcock again had done the spade work. Bertels just got a nick, waited for it to come down, and swung high and not so handsome. Flag up again for offside. Swedes more often playing with 3 up in the second half. So yeah, Woodcock. Bertels again managing to get a nick on. And Roder Anderson only just managing to hold it. Magnus Anderson. Francis. Doing the Cruyff turn inside out. Here's Clark. With 2 up and Francis and Robertson just behind on the touchlines. Woodcock, this is promising for him. It's Magnus Anderson who put it out. Happier on the run on that side than he was on the one in the first half on the other side. Larry Lloyd forward. Bowyer coming short, but Lloyd in the 6-yard box. Bertels didn't quite make it, but might still. Bided his time well then. The cue on the far post. Robertson has found just one cross that's been telling. play now condensed into 20 yards inside the Swedes' half, and that's why McGovern had to go backwards. Really do push up. Really deserved a goal for the superb run again from Francis. Really went at them again, got to the byline, pulled back behind Bertels, who come to the near post. Woodcock was in the centre, and Robertson thumped it against the foot of the post. I wonder whether the Swedish goalkeeper would claim that he anyway had got it covered on that post. Certainly got across pretty quickly, did Muller. Anderson, Lloyd, McGovern, Fritz, Malbert to Ljungberg, Savine, and the free kick for the trip, which Lloyd is absolutely furious about. Well, he turned inside Lloyd. He fell a bit late too. I don't think we can blame the referee too much for that. From his view, that must have looked a very clear trip. The evidence of the slow motion by no means conclusive. Ljungberg might well be prepared to have a crack here, or Roland Anderson, who's behind him. Ljungberg lets it go, Roland Anderson puts it way over the top. Stilton coming forward for words. But Malmo surely very disappointed with that set piece. Supporters. Clark. Ljungberg. Savine trying to get behind the defence and has succeeded. And he gets the corner. And Torre Savine making rather more positive runs in this second half. Played in the recent international against Denmark for Sweden. Bowier's away. And McGovern. Not really giving Bowyer any space to work in. Woodcock, offside against Francis. Been a frustrating aspect both for Forest and for the spectators. There's 20 minutes of the second half gone, still just one goal divides the teams in Forest's favour. The man who's done most to lift this final. It's been looked on by one or two experts as something of a provincial final, and when you remember the great names of the past of Real Madrid and Ajax and Bayern Munich and the players that they produced, Puskas and Di Stefano and Cruyff and Beckenbauer, finalists needed to produce its own character, and it's only produced one individual character in terms of the quality of a performance from Trevor Francis. And I'm sorry that we've lost picture, but it's now back with you, I understand, as we're looking at Brian Clough. The reason for the problem is that there are some very heavy thunderstorms in North Germany. It's Savine. Then just had quick words with Francis as Savine and Schinval make it 4 Malmo players in the middle. And Shilton with a very good punch, height and distance. Hansen and offside. Bobby Charlton.
It is a little frustrating for the Nottingham Forest fans that they're not getting the superiority that they should have. I think really what is happening is that the midfield aren't getting the possession, aren't supporting as well as they might do. And because of this, every ball is going from fullback straight to forward. And it's very difficult on a hot, humid night like this for forward players like Tony Woodcock and Gary Birtles. I think that probably John McGovern might have got himself in the game a little bit more. He is the type of person, once he can get forward, he can create chances for others, but he's just not doing it at the moment. I think he's being man-to-man marked in the middle of the field, and it's stifling him a wee bit.
Woodcock, Francis, Ljungberg denying him the run and then fouling him. Coming across to take it, Francis being way forward. Burns was poised in the middle, so is Bowyer. This is Clark. Well, that's not a good ball, and Robertson did well to hold it. That's good from Woodcock. Bertels, Woodcock. Probably the best we've seen of Tony Woodcock, and he's still in there with a chance. And he's going for the top! As Bertels came in, well, they're very thankful to see that go past the far post. But some lovely body swerves here by Woodcock. Got the return, turned, let the ball do the work, let the defender get out of the way. Got a block, got up on his feet once more. Great example of both industry and skill from Woodcock. Then looking happier on that side. Meantime, Reeds have been given a free kick. We were looking at the replay, which Adamson will take. Lloyd, not a good header. It's the first bad header that he's played, and dangerous play by Anderson. I think caught it in the face. Headed down by Lloyd. Anderson's foot was very high. And last time Ljungberg stepped over it and Roland Anderson had a crack. This time Roland Anderson staying out of it. Ljungberg poised. Three to the right of the wall. Here's Roland Anderson. They have to be very disappointed about their free kick. Got into positions from which one is entitled to expect something rather better than they've offered. Although Forest lead is not being seriously threatened, they are as yet unable to suggest that they can really end with a convincing score sheet. Still 20 minutes remaining. One goal was enough for Inter against Benfica, for Ajax against Juventus, for Bayern against Saint Etienne, and of course for Liverpool last season against Bruges. Well cut out by Roland Anderson. Defenders have certainly stuck to the job well. That, as Bobby Houghton, their coach, told us, undoubtedly the strength of the side. Lloyd is already up for the corner. In the back of the 6-yard box. Comes to Robertson. Blocked by Pritz. And the flag is up anyway for offside. Swedish ball is the linesman's verdict. Savine didn't know he had it. Fritz. Ken Jornsson. One of the students in the team. Looking for another one. Tommy Hansen. Bertels. Does nick so many balls in the air in all different parts of the field. And the free kick for a lunging challenge on Robertson by Ljungberg. Boris mounting another attack in an effort to add to this one-goal lead. Bertels. Robertson. Again, the line had pushed up so square. Not all the balls over the touchline, and the free kick for that challenge by Ronan Anderson. It was close. I don't think the whole of the ball went over. No question about the foul. He's really taking a bumpy ride, Robertson. But he's gained some 30 yards. I think he might well be asked to have another go. Or is he going to cross it this time? He's going to cross it. Lloyd is up. Roll up his head rather than he making real contact. He applauds the cross anyway. Three up for Malmo. Met by Lloyd. Woodcock beaten by Magnus Andersson. Bowyer. Seen him supporting from midfield in the way that he did against Cologne. The second leg, and indeed in the first when he was moved there from fullback. Here's Robertson. Not too much to do, Woodcock. Hansen. Shinval has moved into the box. Ljungberg being picked out. Came on his right foot. When he wanted it on his left, he was going to have any sort of shot. Now John McGunn. Woodcock going wide left. Robertson. Going to have to turn. That's the Swedish stroke. Into the last quarter of an hour. And still England holding on to the European Cup with a lead of 1-0. Now just under 50 minutes away from following the double success of Liverpool, and signs of celebration. We shall not be moved is the familiar cry. Burns. Anderson. Straight into Ljungberg. Ken Jornsson. Anderson back to cover. Savine, the player who made the run. And the free kick given against Anderson. Use of the elbow. The reason, as Mr. Lindemeyer showed quite clearly then. Goal is enough to produce fear amongst supporters, if not amongst players. Dangerous margin. No one to get on the end of that. Lloyd. Trying to get Francis back into the game. This is out to Aronson. Where is somebody seems to be the gesture. Gets it back when he probably didn't want it. And Francis doing the defensive chore. Corner. Ljungberg going across to take it. Ken Johnson coming up into the middle again, where he'll already find 5 other players. Met by Savine, harmlessly away. And he really brushed his forelock. So they've had a couple of corners and free kicks, and have seen rather more of the ball in the Forest 18-yard area than their supporters would like. Well up again by Birtles. Here's Fritz. Ronan Anderson. This is Malmo. Shinval has Erlandson behind him. 2 in the middle. Malmo. Too long for Fritz. Woodcock, Robertson, Birtles far post, Woodcock poised to come to the near. Turned out by Malbert. John Robertson's missed just 1 game in 3 seasons. He's provided the moment that led to the goal. His 1 run that he really got to the dead ball line and pulled the ball back, or the goal line as it should be called. Birtles and Lloyd, neither quite made it. Here's Burns. Oh, he's not that. The whistle had already gone for offside. This European Cup final must have set a new record of offside decisions.
Yeah, it's died a little bit of a death at the moment. The corner kick we see coming across here. The ball drops out and Kenny Burns has a swing at it with his right foot. Doesn't miss by very far, but an offside decision already been given. I'd like to see Forest score another goal, because I think that they're easily a better side than these. And, you know, when you think of the great teams that have been before.
Anderson, who came across and almost causing Bobby Johnson to be cut in mid-sentence. Well, that's the fear, Bobby. With only 1 goal, 1 break could make all the difference. The scoreline not truly reflecting the balance of the play, but Forest have been unable to break down this very well organised defence more than once.
I think, like everybody else, you know, everybody wants the ball to get out to Trevor Francis, like it is now. A substitution being made now. Tommy Anderson, number 13, which is a little bit of a risk from their point of view, because he has been injured. Here we come now, Ian Boyer. Out. It's Roberts.
Taking on and beating Anderson. 2 to put it back to. If he can pull to the back of the box, he had 2 players there. It's Boyer we just caught putting his hands behind his head. He was the best placed. Here's Francis. Birtles and Fritz. Robertson. Boyer, McGovern square. Didn't quite get the return. Birtles just crowded out. Here's Shinval. Tommy Hansen. Shinval on the far post. Poor final ball from Malmo, and we've seen several of those. And it's Tommy Hansen who's going to come off to be replaced by another forward, Tommy Anderson. Tommy Anderson, who's 29, Tommy Hansen scored the vital goal which brought them through to the final. Now being replaced, straight swap of forward for forward. And Anderson almost making a name for himself with his first kick. 29 years old, he's had a few problems with knee injuries. Denied him a place in the national side. Here's Woodcock, it fell kindly. Another good run. And he's still got it. Finally beaten by Ken Johnson. Only a half-hearted appeal for a penalty. Here's Roland Anderson for Malmo. Have 7 minutes to save this European Cup final. Came here as tremendous underdogs, Bob Houghton's side. But they've battled and employed their strength and defence to frustrate Nottingham Forest. Come on up, Richard! Without ever really suggesting that they could snatch one, though perhaps that's a dangerous thing to say with a little over 6 minutes left. Bertels, Woodcock, Bowyer, Robertson. Woodcock with Magnus Anderson coming to him and definitely pushing him without any question at all. The referee didn't see it. Here's Lloyd. Fritz. Burns. It's a nothing ball from Clark. We've seen often enough in this match. Lloyd missing out. Burns didn't. Francis and Erlinson ran a bit for Francis. Just the two forward. Erlinson trying to get goal side of him, forcing Francis to pull back. Here's McGovern. Offside against Anderson. They've moved up as a unit, which is credit to the coaching in that particular tactic, even if it's not particularly nice to watch. And the two players in the centre of the defence haven't played together hardly at all as a unit. Some credit they've managed to work as a unit. 5 minutes left. Nottingham Forest leading by 1 goal to nothing. Poised to keep the European Cup at home, but not quite with the performance that they were looking for. Woodcock. I suppose the Liverpool supporters would say of their team last season, when they were frustrated for a long time by Bruges. Offside given against Bertels. Very different 2 years ago in Rome when Liverpool won it for the first time in style. If Forest win it, they will be winning it on their first attempt, which is the same as Celtic back in 1967. And first time Inter Milan won it. A curiosity referring back to Celtic, Brian Clough, now 44, is exactly the same age as Jock Stein was then. Bobby Houghton, only 32. May have other chances to come. Disappointment though showing in his eyes, I think. Gained a lot of admirers, but they're admiring the other side. Bertels. Clark. Having lost the first, he looked for the second. Caught a muscle a little bit in the back of his thigh, I think. well prepared to celebrate victory with 3 minutes left. Forest, although they haven't played well, have certainly sought the victory, whereas Malmo have stayed on defence and rather hoped for the breakaway. First half that the Forest team scored their one goal. Surely we're not going to end like this. Ljungberg's back pass. Two down the middle. Oh, that's a bad throw out. Erlandson doing well under a lot of pressure from Francis. Too much pressure, says the referee. 2 minutes away from a third English victory in the European Cup on the trot. The last two by 1-0. Roland Anderson, Bertels winning as ever. He's only giving away the goal kick. The linesman singing to the referee that it had gone out. Flags of celebration for Forest. Just a little over a minute we make it. The ball with Trevor Francis, scorer of the one goal. Well, there were certain doubts at one stage about whether Nottingham Forest would actually sign Trevor Francis, and he hasn't yet convinced them of his qualities, but that was before tonight. He's won in the European Cup. I think they'll be prepared to be patient with him in the future. Away by Lloyd. Again away by Lloyd. Here's Viv Anderson. 15 seconds now, we make it on the watch. Here's Woodcock, only a question of possession for Nottingham Forest. Become the fifth team to win it by the only goal. For over £1 million. Before they go up for the presentation, quick word from Bobby Charlton.
Well, I think the Swedes were looking for a place in the sun, but unfortunately it wasn't to be this time. They were beaten by a much better side, and in boxing terms I think you would call it a mismatch as such. Never really a competition, and it didn't really suit Nottingham Forest to have to play this type of game against this type of opposition. But there's no disputing that they are worthy European champions. They're the most positive team that I've seen certainly over the past few years in our country, and I think that they're a great representative for us. I'm delighted also to see somebody like Brian Clough and Peter Taylor, twosome, who have given football a great deal, not only all the headlines that they've created, but certainly from the positive football that they've produced for all of us to watch and enjoy.
Tribute to Brian Clough from the Nottingham Forest team, from Bobby Charlton, who wait to go up and collect the European Cup from Dr. Artemio Franchi, President of UEFA. Having become the 11th different holder of the European Cup. This, the fourth trophy, has been used, stands just 30 inches high, weighs 17 pounds. Bob Houghton being ushered away, shaking his head. Some accepts one. Comes to receive the trophy that has many famous names on it, from Real Madrid forward. The officials, there's the chairman of Nottingham Forest. The trophy at the moment dwarfing John McGovern. Larry locked up a lot. And the aim is to Brian Clough and Peter Taylor achieve, but I'm sure they're not going to rest on their laurels. That's one of their great secrets. They don't do anything of that nature. They will be planning for the future now, to hold on to it, and doubtless in the hope of doing what Liverpool just failed to do, winning 3 times running. Peter Shilton, who left Stoke City for success and has found it. Ian Bowyer, who was in the first line-up against Tottenham in the Cup back in January 75. John Robertson, who's been Chris Woods, the goalkeeper. Francis, who's got a 4 on the trench, and he found much more to come from him, I'm sure. Tony Woodcock, the workhorse with a great deal of skill. Peter Shilton, another clean sheet, his 51st with Forest. As Malmo come up and get their consolation medals, they're made of silver, the winners' medals are made of gold. Magnus Anderson, the number 5, did a good job in an unaccustomed role. Ted Johnson, who was alongside him. Shinval, who had their best chance and was a little frightened of it, to be truthful. Jan Muller, Swedes think is as good a goalkeeper as Ronnie Hellstrom. In the meantime, the Forest players have gone to their supporters with the trophy. Well, they couldn't get any further than that because they're surrounded by photographers wanting to capture the moment. Remember the efforts of those who didn't play, of David Needham, of Martin O'Neill, John O'Hare, as we look again at Lundberg coming down, Archie Gemmell. Every team needs a strength of squad, and it certainly served Forest well in their success of keeping the European Cup in England. Cup being held away from and then held up for the photographers. Nottingham Forest FC flashing on the board of the stadium which celebrated the World Cup victory and which is known for magnificent athletics, not least by Mary Peters, who of course won here in 72. The Swedes going through their supporters. It was a bit of a fairy tale for them to get this far. They knew they were the underdogs. They lost key players before the match and lost another during it, and were not good enough to deny Nottingham Forest their success, which they felt was theirs and indeed had to be theirs since they knocked out Liverpool in the opening round. Having done that, they carried the burden of representing England, and they were determined that they wouldn't fail to a lesser side than Liverpool. They felt they'd beaten the best in Europe and then wanted to prove that they indeed were worthy of succeeding to that title. Supporters on their feet, some 20,000 or so, have been reinforced by members of the British Army of the Rhine who have come down to see the final. Several flags. One I noticed at half-time said, "Are you watching Liverpool?" But I think Liverpool would indeed congratulate them and feel better for the fact that they lost to them in the first. Sport to give it expression at the front. And he did on the one decisive move tonight, having always looked the most likely player to produce dividends from telling runs. It was he who got on the end of the one moment, I think, when John Robertson burst on the outside of defenders and crossed. Francis coming in on the far post, headed it in for the only goal of the match, which means that England now have created a new record. They are the first side to win the European Cup with 3 different teams. With Manchester United in 1968, with Liverpool in the last 2 seasons, and now with Brian Clough and Peter Taylor's team, Nottingham Forest, who now show the trophy to their supporters, a trophy which comes back to England yet again.